Yo, what's poppin', guys? You got your boy Nandra here. Welcome to another video. So for this video, it's not gonna be gameplay. I'm just gonna be talking about the nerfs. So a few of you guys asked me to go ahead and talk about the nerfs. They've already gone live, so I'll just go and try to look for the info thing, and I'll just go and talk about it there. This one. Oh, wrong thing. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay. So, for those of you who don't know, the following cards got nerfed: Magic Illusionist, Immortal Thane, and Bahamut. And then in unlimited format, Bloodwolf and Arya and Queen Arya got reduced to you can only have one copy in deck. So I'll go ahead and I'll talk about the Queen Arya and the Bloodwolf thing first, because that's probably shorter to answer and or talk about. So, okay, where is it? Alright, basically, for the blood thing, like, with Bloodwolf going to 1, like, it does kind of make the deck slightly less aggressive. I'm not quite sure why they decided to opt for Bloodwolf. I think just because it was a case of both aggro blood that uses Caraboth and Vengeance blood that uses stuff like Belfgor and Dark General. The only one of the few cards that they have in common is that they both use Bloodwolf. So because both those decks saw a lot of play, they decided to go ahead and just go for the limitation on Bloodwolf, which is fine because the Bloodwolf is a pretty infuriating card. For Vengeance Blood, I'm not sure how much the Bloodwolf nerf is going to matter. I mean, I'm just going to go out on a limb and just going to say it's going to matter quite a bit. But for the aggro one, I feel like it's probably gonna matter a lot, especially if you're using Caraboth. The reason being is that, yes, you do have Savage Wolf as the alternative to Bloodwolf. However, when you're playing Caraboth, the amount of PP they use per each card, that matters. If you play Bloodwolf in a turn, there's a strong chance you're only gonna be able to play 2 cards that turn. Whereas not 2 cards, 3 cards if you're using Bloodwolf. And if you're using Savage Wolf, there's a strong chance you're only gonna be able to play 2 cards in a turn. That matters a lot, especially when you can go into Caraboth and then just have 6 cards in hand or whatever. You need to be able to get all these cards out in order to be able to burn your opponent's face off. So that matters a lot. It also means that you're not just gonna get smacked for 2 in the face on turn 2 if your opponent's going first or whatever, before you can do anything about it. Because most times the only way you can deal with that is if you will happen to have a goblin or something like that, and if you don't, you're just gonna feel bad, because that'll usually mean that they're just gonna take 4 damage for free, and that's kind of a lot. It's kind of a lot from a 2-drop. For the Arya Guiding Fairy, this one I don't really know as much about it. I understand the why they did it, because it makes Roach ridiculous, because I know that there's a way where you can just OTK your opponent on 6 with the Arya fairies, because you get the 2-0 cost Wisp, but because they don't stay on your board if you sequence it correctly, that just gives you additional 3 or more plus damage to your roaches or whatever on turn 6, which you can also kind of just search out with Fina Eva or something like that, and just makes it really crazy. So having that get reduced to 1 is fine, I think. I'm not sure how much that's gonna matter in rotation. Well, rather, I'm going to assume that this doesn't okay, yeah, it's just for unlimited format, so never mind. It doesn't matter in rotation right now. Anyway, yeah, so that's kind of a big deal. It's just one of those. Well, in order to have Roach still be viable, you're probably just gonna either nerf cards that go for Roach, or you're just gonna have to nerf the Roach itself. So in this case, they decided to just kind of nerf cards around Roach instead of the Roach itself, probably because I'm not sure if they've thought of a good way to nerf Roach and have Roach still be playable. I'm pretty sure that the way to do that's just probably just make Roach go to 2, but that's a story for another day. Alright, so going back up to the to rotation format. Alright, so the changes that they made was that they nerfed Magic Illusionist defense from 2 to 1. That's actually a big deal. It's actually a bigger deal than people give it credit for. I know a lot of people were like, well, why did you change it? Like, this changes nothing. It changes a lot. It changes a lot. It now means the magic illusionist can actually die to pings. That's actually a very, very big deal. Like, for example, as you may recall, when Little Soul Squasher got similar treatment a few patches ago, like, she went from being an automatic 3-0 to being a now, oh, you sometimes play 2-0 or not at all. And that's actually a very, very big thing. It means that, like, they're not just gonna like feel like the, well, I have to play Illusionist if I'm playing a dirt deck or whatever. Like, you're not gonna feel like that anymore. Because I know a lot of times, like, for a lot of people, if you weren't playing Illusionist or whatever, like, you feel kind of bad because, like, Illusionist is a 2PP win the game by just playing the game. Like, that's that's pretty insane. The big things that I think about that is that, again, like, now you can use pings to clear it. Like, for example, you can use Angel of the Word, Lyrial. You can also use stuff like Confront Adversity. Yeah, like that's actually a very big one, because, like, Confront Adversity is already a pretty good card by itself. One of the only issues was that, like, well, it only felt like super good versus Forest and Shadow, but now it can also feel good versus Rune as well, and that's pretty big. It means that there's more chance of people playing it now. The other thing is that, like, it also makes it so, like, so even if the Magic Illusionist is evolved, it means that now one attack units that get full stats on Evo, or at least just get full attack on Evo, that means that they can now clear. That's kind of a big deal. Like, for example, if you're playing Dragon and you have like Dragon Summon or whatever, and you have like a Blazing Breath, but you don't have anything else you can play, that now means, oh, well, if you're willing to give an Evo to the Dragon Summon or whatever, you can just, like, evolve into the Illusionist, take away its last sigil, and then just go ahead and, like, Blazing Breath it away. That's kind of a big deal, because a lot of times what happens is that, like, they play out the Illusionist just happens to be, like, a little bit too tanky, and then they play out a billion sigils, you can't deal with it, and then you just kind of lose. But now it just makes it so sets in the early game, like, it is going to be more likely that you can, like, play your like, small, like, utility dorks, like, say, for example, your 1-2s and whatnot, or your 1-1s, and just be able to clear it, and that's pretty good. I definitely still think Illusionists will probably see play. I don't know how much play. I just know they'll probably see play, just because, like, it's still one of those things in which, like, it can snowball out of control pretty easily, and you can still just kind of, like, win the game if you have enough sigils, and that's kind of like silly, but, like, it's just it's a way to win, basically. The next change is Immortal Thane. Immortal Thane will now cost 8 instead of 7. So, to be honest with you, I was actually talking about this nerf a few days ago with some of my friends. Well, before we, like, saw, like, what the nerfs were. I was talking about this a few days ago with my friends. To be quite honest, like, the biggest problem with Thane, it's not even the fact of, like, it's not actually like the initial bodies of the Thane. It's actually straight up just the 0 cost you get from the Thane itself. Like, that's the part that should have just been, like, touched. Like, I'm pretty sure Thane would still be good, even if the White King that you got, like, costs, like, 3 mana or like 2 mana or whatever, like, but having it cost 0 is just, like, silly, because, like, it's what enables the really crazy stuff in Shadow. Like, for example, it's what enables you being able to go, like, say turn 8, go, like, say 0 mana White King into Ektar to then suddenly get to clear three units, as opposed to suddenly get to clear, like, 3 units and maybe say a Bahamut, as opposed to doing other things. So I definitely feel like that should have been the change. But having it cost 8 is still a very big thing, because I know that they said that, like, that the overall average game timer is like one turn slower than what it was before this patch happened. So, and I know that usually games would end by, say, I don't know, I think it's like turn 6, turn 7, something like that. So now having them end by like say turn 8, turn 9 is kind of a big deal, because it means that, like, when Thane comes down, it might come down too late. Like, there's definitely a big gap between 7 mana and 8 mana. Like, before, you could just say, oh, okay, well, I'm probably just gonna be able to have to hold an Evo to turn 7, just because if you're going second, well, you have 3 Evos, you can just, like, Evo on 4, Evo on 5, and then maybe not Evo on 6, maybe say play like play like Odal or something like that, the Evo on 7 for the Thane, and then just go ahead and chain Thanes. But now you can't really do, well, you can still do that, but, like, it's gonna be a lot harder to do that, and that's a big deal, because, like, for those of you who've played a ton of Shadow, most people will tell you that, like, it's very difficult to retain Evos in Shadow a lot of the time. Well, it's very, very difficult to retain evos in Shadow unless you've like catacombed your board, in which case it doesn't really matter because you have like the catacombs. The catacombs will let you do all the traits you need to do. But the event where you can't do that, then yeah, like it's going to matter a lot. Even now, like just having thane chains be a turn 8 into turn 9, that gives you a lot more time to prepare for it. It also gives you a lot more time to be able to just like ignore it and just like kill them before it even comes out. Like most times, how you lose is just, well, they have the 0 mana thane. They have the 0 mana White King, and then they just played another thane, and I just like lost. And it's like, oh, okay then. Will this change if Immortal Thane sees play? To be honest with you, I don't know. Like, I definitely think it probably won't be a 3-of anymore. Because I know, like, for the last like few weeks or whatever, it's been a 3-of for a lot of people, just because, like, well, it's a pretty good way to win. It's like a really good way to win, actually. So I definitely think it might go down to 2 for some people on certain lists. Like, for example, if you're playing like the Reanimator Shadow list, you probably will only play 2 of these now, or maybe even 1, honestly. Or you might not play any at all. So it's definitely kind of like, even though it's not the nerf I wanted, it's still a fine nerf. Like, because again, like, PP nerfs, like, while small and seemingly lazy towards a lot of people, like, they're usually pretty effective at what they do. Alright, and so for the last nerf, Bahamut's attack and defense will be lowered from 13-13 and evolve 15-15 to 9-9 and evolve 11-11. Additionally, its effect will be changed from fanfare to destroy all of the followers and amulets. Can attack the enemy leader if two more followers are in play, to fanfare destroy all other followers, and can attack the enemy leader if 2 more enemy followers are in play. So this is actually a really, really big nerf, like a really, really huge nerf. So I know for a lot of people have been salty about Bahamut for almost effectively years. The reason being is that, like, it's one of those cards that, like, it doesn't have that much of a drawback. Like, for example, it's one of those, like, if you're someone who's coming from like Hearthstone, Bahamut doesn't have like that much of a drawback. Like, if you compare Bahamut to that of like Deathwing, like looks like the more balanced card, because Deathwing you have to destroy your entire hand just boom, just in the graveyard or whatever, to then blow up the board. And if I remember correctly, I don't even think Deathwing is even like a 13th. I think it's like a 12 or something like that. But for Bahamut, like Bahamut, you get all this extra utility of, well, you get to destroy your followers and amulets, and oh hey, yeah, I'm also at 13-13 in a game where you only have 20 HP as opposed to like 30 or whatever for what HS has. So Bahamut can literally like just come down and just like one shot your opponent most times, and that's pretty insane. The other reason why this nerf is good is just because, like, we're in a more slower format, so we're gonna see a lot of like crazy just like value bombs and things like that. Like, for example, it's why we're seeing Wolf, it's why we're seeing Jungle Warden, it's why we're seeing Thanes. Well, it's why we're seeing Thanes become as big of a nuisance as it is now. It's also why we're seeing some of the other win cons that we're seeing, and for the most part, they're all generally slow. However, the other reason why this nerf is good is because, like, the whole like stigma that people have. Like, people have long since said, oh, well, the only reason why you can't play amulets in this game is because Bahamut is because of Bahamut. Now, first off, let me gonna tell you, that's not, well, in some cases that's not the reason why you can't play the amulet. But in other cases it's true. Like, for example, for Sword. Right, so Sword, they only have like one amulet. Granted, right off the bat, you should know that that's a problem. Like if you're trying to have amulets, like you can't just play one amulet, you have to play multiples. But that's a whole separate topic. And so for a lot of people felt that like the issue with Roland and Durandal is that, like, well, if your opponent just Bahamuts it, then, like, well, what do you do? Like, it's pretty detrimental. However, now that they can't Bahamut it, that's actually a very, very big deal. Just because, like, you can't actually get rid of it, and it also makes it so certain things that the store player can do now kind of become really, really disgusting. Like, for example, you can now Fangblade a Bahamut and the Fangblade will live. that's pretty wild to me. Just because Dragon has a very, very difficult time clearing units above like 3 HP, especially when they're out of Evos, and especially when the unit in question has Bane. That's a lot to ask. So it does make like that matchup better for the sword player. However, it's not all just like gloom and doom for the Bahamut itself, because like yes, it did lose a considerable amount of attack, and it did lose a considerable amount of its utility. I'm sorry. However, for other matchups, it did make it a little bit better. Like for example, versus Haven, and this is probably gonna be like the biggest one. Versus Haven, you will not feel bad about like trying to just like nuke your opponent's board, but because your opponent lays to the board with Tribunal, you just feel bad because you just like 10 mana wipe the board but kill your own unit. Yeah, you won't feel bad about that anymore. I mean, like it'll still mean that Tribunal still like really good into Dragon, but you just like won't feel bad about that aspect anymore. You also won't feel bad about possible cases where you like run into situations where you have to like blow up things like say T times or whatever, and they also have to like evolve the T times unit as well. Like that's kind of a big thing as well. For the dirt matchup, it'll make it so like that there's a few points that you get back as dirt in terms of like being able to like beat Dragon. Just because like now the Dragon player can't just go, oh well, I'm just gonna do it with your illusion support by just going in and just like ramping up to 10 and slamming Baha and then forcing you to either mutagenic bolt it or just like get rid of it somehow. And then if you can't, well, you just like lose. And that's a pretty big deal as well. I'm not sure how much it'll change the matchup, but I definitely think that like I definitely think that this nerf will go ahead and will change the dynamic of Dragon in its current state, and that you might have to like gravitate towards doing something else as opposed to just like, well, if I just turbo Bahamut, then like what does he do? And that's kind of a big deal. I know like post nerf, what this has changed is that it does mean that like that there are certain amulets that now people are going to be more willing to play, which is part of that like whole like placebo nerf effect, in which like you could still play it already, but a lot of people's like perceptions kind of made it so you can make it seem like you couldn't play it altogether, and that's almost never true. Like for example, at this time of speaking, I know that the current menace for people is currently tilting at Windmill's Dragon, which is a card that like I said way back when, like I knew it was going to see play because like its effect is too good for it to not see play. However, there are a lot of other things getting in the way. Like for example, at the time, Polyroar was in the meta. It was like a little bit better just because it was a more like standalone and guaranteed effect. Then we had Canyons. But like now's the time for like Windmill Dragon to shine, because like you can actually play Windmill and Bahamut in the same deck. Oh, sorry, you can play them and they won't be anti-synergy in the same deck, and that's a big deal because like you can just go ahead and oh, your opponent tries to ward up, you can just go ahead and just Bahamut away the wards and hit them in the face for 9, and 9 is a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage, especially when they take away your board at the same time, and that's definitely a big deal. The other amulet that's good is now Canyon of the Dragons. Like I already said like several months ago that Canyon of the Dragons was gonna be like good, but now it's even better just because like if you play it in the Dragon Mirror, you almost assuredly win, provided that your opponent like decides to like take a turn off to try to like, draw cards, like because it just means that like, oh well, if you have enough threats now that your opponent just can't come back into the game, that's pretty ridiculous. So I definitely think it'll give some. It'll make some changes to the Dragon Mirror as a whole, just because like there's certain things they now have to like they now have to be considerate of. Like for example, well, what do I do if they play either tilting or if they play Canyon? To that note, people are already starting to tech for the sort of like meta game, because like Bahamut used to be the catch-all answer to amulets or whatever, so now they actually need to have the amulet destruction of some way, shape, or form. People are now actually playing stuff like Burly Axe Wielder, Fall from Grace, just because those are two of the remaining answers in rotation format for dealing with amulets. So that's actually a very, very nice change, just to see like those two cards come into the format and actually start being like played, because like both those cards are actually pretty good at what they do. For the Burly Axe Wielder, it's more of a sort of like narrow sort of tech, because like you only really want it for amulets. It may be for helping out your curve early, but for Fall from Grace, it has a little bit more like splashability and like utility, and that's kind of cool. I definitely think that the all 3 or 5 of these nerfs, like just like looking at everything all together, were all like pretty good for the game. Like I said though, I'm pretty sure that the Mortal Thane one, it for now, off the top of my head, without having like played much of Shadow since the nerfs, I definitely still think that I might have wanted to change it to the cost reduction on the thane itself, but this still makes it kind of fine. It's still because like thane is still going to be in the meta, or sorry, it's still going to be in rotation for at least another like 5 or 6 months or something like that before it like rotates out. So this will still make sure it gets played at least in rotation format, and then it might just like drop off altogether in unlimited format, and I think that's fine. But yeah, these are my thoughts on the nerfs. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Let me know what you thought of the nerfs down in the comments below. Were there any that you like didn't like seeing? Were there any that you hoped you saw but didn't see? And were there any other additional changes that you'd make? Go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. I'll